Hi again, I'm Vera Rabkina, product manager at AppFollow. And today we're going to talk about the product fit in mobile and the ways to find it. Generally, the idea how to build an app users actually need. And well, basically, like for any product manager, this is like the main aim and the main reason why we're in this industry. And it feels to me like product fit is something really important because it's already stage zero and it influences the success of the whole journey you're going to take with your app. And the more time and effort you put in this product fit strategy, the higher chances for success are. So yeah, we believe at AppFollow this is really important, and we would like to share some tips and tricks and methods how to increase your chances for success, and how to help your app to build the right and proper functionality. So a few words about AppFollow. Well, all-in-one tool for app marketing, reputation management, and downloads revenue analysis. We work with a really wide range of stores, including App Store, Google Play, Amazon, Microsoft Store, and this is just increasing. We have more than 500,000 apps added by users, and more than 100 gigabyte data processed daily, which means like we work with a wide range of apps, be it entertainment apps, gaming, lifestyle, health, and well, the thing about the product fit is that it's important for any type of this app, and there's no a single product that gains success that skip this step. So we feel like, well, this is something that all our clients should talk about, and not just our clients, and we'll be happy to share insights and methods. So yeah, before we start, let's just talk a couple of words about what product fit to make sure that we're on the same page here. So generally, product fit is the degree to which a product satisfies the market demand. And like when I was early in the career of product manager, I thought, well, it's me who defines what actually like what products make, what features I choose. It's like I can decide everything. And the longer I was in this career, I figured out that well, now I have some influence on what the features are made. Well, I definitely don't have this upper hand, and market is the upper hand. And well, now it's kind of common to say that it's users who say what they want. The more I work, the more I feel like, well, that they somehow subconsciously know what they want. Users are not that good at telling what features they actually need. Otherwise, our career would be so much more easier. So yeah, now, and I think like the process of finding a product fit is kind of getting this intuitive understanding of what users need and bring this to users instead of kind of following the directions on the left, on the right, whatever. Right. So yeah, it's kind of a really tricky way and to build a market, and it's like a tricky thing to understand, but it's very important. So I do recommend putting effort here. Right. So generally, it would start from classics. So any business strategy, it's kind of has three corners: it's distribution, monetization, and the product itself. And now, at some point, it feels like they have equal shares. They're not, and the product being on top, though, kind of we feel like, yeah, well, business strategy is about building a product, but this is just the top of the hill, and while there's so much more, and it's not for nothing that distribution monetization is somewhere in the bottom, because this is where the product is built from. And in a successful strategy, it heavily relies on these two. And before you kind of have your basis, you're not supposed to go any further. So we'll talk about the way you can get insights for each of those, which would eventually shape your product fit. So we'll start from distribution. So distribution discovery, right? So there are many ways to get distribution insights, and I find that this is important because this is like the biggest part of the funnel. And I find it makes sense to start from the beginning, and this is how your customers will get acquainted with the product. And I feel like today we've talked a lot about it, and besides like a lot of tasks and effort put there are a lot of information you can use as a product manager for yourself for building a new product. So here goes App Store optimization discovery, user acquisition discovery, and brand awareness. So we'll go each by each and figure out how to do it properly. So yeah, we'll start with SO discovery. So what happens here? Well, generally, App Store optimization is about boosting the organic traffic, and that it's a lot more than keywords. keywords research help you a lot to get this intuitive initial understanding what people are looking for, because you probably know from your experience that, well, organic users are more motivated because they're not just seeing the ad somewhere. They kind of went to the effort to go to App Store, type something in, and then install your app. So yeah, if you look the metrics, they tend to spend more time and have higher retention rate there. So what if before you have like a vague idea of what to do with your app, what my recommendation is, like you decided, for example, and today we're going to use face yoga apps, just for a matter of example. So what's happening here? So you have this idea, I want to do this type of apps. What my recommendation is, you go and you start a keywords research. So you go and look what other people are looking for. So yeah, here you see I've just put face yoga, and then I studied the keywords I have. So and I've find out what people have in combinations there. So you see they have some anti-aging method, some of them have like busy life, and this kind of already sets your mind in a little bit different direction from what you have maybe, or just give you a little more details and context why people would like to install this app. And this is like a really nice way to put your thought process. So what you do next is you go and study the apps that are given using these keywords and on top of this keyword. So I just like picked one of those, and you see like besides the ones about face yoga, I was just interested in, they have like workplace, for example, or stretching flexibility, and this already gives a lot more context for what you can use. So what you do is kind of create this word cloud or mind map of what other people are looking for in the app store, and this is like really useful. And from this, you kind of go and start in building your ideas and build your hypothesis. So yeah, you go through a number of apps and just basically build a pretty different, and you'll see like how different apps go for different audiences, or maybe you'll notice that they all go for pretty much the same audience, which is also interesting, right? So once you have this idea and you kind of have this initial word cloud in your mind, you go for user acquisition strategy. And yeah, I think today we talked a lot, right, about it and why it's important. And you should know that like the general process of user acquisition creatives is that you create a lot of those, and like the ones you see trending are like the top ones. So you kind of already look at the winners of enormous amount of tests held regularly by enormous amount of companies. So what I do, I usually go use Facebook creative list and just go for the competitors I've just seen companies doing the same thing, and just go through the videos they post, their ads, and this like would give you a lot of insights about the value they're promoting. And as you probably know, like there are many different approaches. So like you see that this is what works, and this is the value that people are looking for. So this is like would save you a lot of time. And if you skip this way, you kind of end up with inventing something and then trying a way to fit this in the box. But you can kind of cut the road, and even without spending like zero budget on development, you can already know like this value works for them, this value works for them, and it gives you a whole different idea of what you can do, and might change the way you perceive your idea. So this is really useful. I do recommend this. And finally, goes brand awareness. And I think this is important thing to talk about, especially for mobile apps, because this is something that is usually omitted, because we tend to think that mobile is not that big, but situation changes. And like really, if you look at the apps that appeared last 3 years maybe, they're so much more different, and there's so much more bigger brands emerging exactly from mobile. They don't come from different other areas of business and just have a mobile app. It's like a mobile has become the zero platform, the platform they can kick off, and then they create web solutions or offline solutions, whatever. So yeah, I think it's important to think about what do you want to build a brand at all, because this is not a must-have thing for mobile. There are different approaches, and if you want, how you want to do it, how much you want to rely on it. Do you need to think about collaboration with influencers? Do you need somebody who will be ambassador of your app? So this is like, again, a distribution, because it's not just ads. And I think it's, if you ask yourself these questions in the beginning, it'll be so much easier for you to implement this in future. So yeah, what I do with all these ideas and just general things, uh, is that, well, I call it profiling. So basically, I split all the things in three sections. So first section is persona. So basically, all ideas I got from these ads, for whom they are, to whom they are, appealing or whatever. So it's like what they're looking for. You can see it. So I kind of put it all in persona. It can be really versatile and can be, contradictory as well. It doesn't have to be like only working women. It can be stay-at-home moms, for example. So it just, at this point, it's just a word cloud. So I'm not making any decisions. So it's okay. I just put it all there. So another section I profile is context. And I find, like, for mobile, this is like a very important question, which is, and I've seen like many times that this is something that is ignored, which is, I find a huge mistake, because while with mobile, context is very important, because we're not anymore in the era of computers where they're just on your desk in your bedroom. Mobile is with you everywhere, and I think it's extremely important to find the right context your app will be used, especially if it's a lifestyle app, health app, so that it kind of fit in the life of people, right? So again, so while you see you studying all these things, you see, like, well, some people might use it for a morning routine or on a lunch break or on a flight. So, like, just keep with this content, keep gathering these ideas, and we'll see how they emerge later. And again, features. So I start writing down features, but don't be too heavy on this at this point, because, well, it just, like, you might have some ideas, but you still don't have enough information, and it's just the beginning of your journey. But some nice notes might be nice. Right. So after you're done with this initial study of the first beginning of the funnel, so you go further, and this is where monetization kicks in. And I find, like, this like a common mistake for startups, who's like so many, I think, of those reasons to fail, just because there's so many examples where there's a huge, great product, but which didn't think about monetization early enough, and then has to put so much effort to fit in. And I'd say, like, it's day zero or even like -1. Like, the earlier you can think about monetization, you should, because, well, it defines a lot of things. It defines the way you organize information, what type of information you build, and it's really painful to change your monetization strategy. So yes, this is something, like, really, even before features, before UI, something like think about it and just go with this idea how you're going to earn the money, right? So generally, like, with monetization, there's, like, especially mobile, it's like a hot time now, because the trends, they come and go. So yeah, previously, like, premium was a big thing, and there was, like, now it's almost done. Freemium and ads, it's still like a huge trend, and it's like a very common monetization scheme, right? Recently, subscription was being introduced like a couple of years ago. Now, like, all over the place, and some of the industries, they become a standard, and some of those, they're still trying to find their way. Like, people tend to talk about blockchain, we'll see, right? But the idea here is that, well, try to be flexible, try to understand where the whole market and industry is going, because, while monetization is not something, like, type of monetization, I don't think you want to experiment with. Otherwise, you're really, like, a good for bold choices, but this is like a really, really sensitive thing. So what I would do is just go again, check those competitors and check what types of monetization they are, and would just, especially for soft launch, would go with the one most popular one, because, well, it's a really tough decision, and especially if you're planning to win some of the customers they already have. So the practice shows that people are much more flexible when they switch to the same monetization scheme, because they're used to it, they know how to pay for it, and it's kind of more common for them. When it's a change, it can work, but again, it's a bigger risk. Right, so just go figure out what's popular in this type of area and just go with it. That's my recommendation. Right, and finally, we got to the best of part of it, which is a product discovery. Right, so the one we kind of, I think the most important one, and definitely the most creative one. Right. So yeah, so the product on the top, but yeah, make sure to already come to the thinking about your product with already some parts of, answers, with some understanding of what cloud of the audience, and basically, understanding of the distribution channel. In other words, is understanding your audience better. And since you have like, it's really hard at this point to do all the customer development, so it's like a way to kind of get prepared for it. Monetization is important because, well, you wouldn't do without it, and like it influences everything. So yeah, it again, like what's important for why monetization is important, because, well, it doesn't like exist somewhere isolated. It's tied with your audience, because different types of audience tend to different types of monetization schemes, even within those four strategies. So it would affect it. And if you want to have, like, I don't know, this type of really hot like high bait year subscriptions, for example, it would fit to one type of audience. If you just go with ads, it's different type of audience. So it's all interconnected, and you need to know a lot about people you're going to make the product for before you start building the product itself. Otherwise, then don't really match, and it's a big issue, and this like one of the reasons why products fail. All right, so getting back to our product, generally, like, product discovery is something like a lot of effort is put by many people. There are many methods, but I think like generally you can put them in one of two groups. So they are opinion based. The ones like when it's more about what we think, it's like qualitative data, and there are data based, which is quantitative data. And generally, it's like two schools which kind of fight in each other, and like saying, well, you're right, you're not right. So it's like we should go only for research, only like tests will tell whether it's okay or not. And like the other school is saying, well, it's creative process, and like it's not like you can measure everything. So generally, the truth is somewhere that you want to combine methods from both schools, right? And I think like this is the best strategy. Right, so what's happening here? So I picked up like top 3 things I feel like would give you a lot of impact and a lot of insights, and wouldn't require that much amount of budget and time, because, well, general product discovery is an ongoing process, and the moment from your soft launch is not, it's just beginning of the story, and it will be recurring. So what my recommendation is just to go for app review study, gap search, and user interview. So what's happening here? Let's start from the first one, app review study. Generally, I think like this is like the must-have. This is like really useful and cheap, and this is like something that, well, everyone who starts building any type of app should go for. So what's happening here is, yeah, generally like starting app reviews of your competitors is like extremely important, because, well, what you see is like users who are already motivated and use other apps that go and say, I like this one, I don't like that one, and it would take you enormous amount of time to get the same feedback for your app. So it's like kind of you having a time machine, like, and having like, well, as if you are the owner of this app, you're getting a feature and these features worked, these features didn't. So yeah, basically just go and study app reviews. You can do it like manually, just going on App Store, like reading every out of them. Or you can go, like, if you're using semantic analysis, it would be much easier, because, well, semantic analysis will tag something like a feature request, so you can kind of just go pick up those which are feature request style, and like tagged by machine learning as a feature request. So machine would do some work for you, would just take less time for you, right? But at the end of the day, no matter what you choose, what you want to do is just you take the list of this reviews, and like as if you're in school, you go and highlight things that they tell. So you see like saying, like, people tell how often they use, what they don't like it may be too complicated, or maybe like you see there's an interesting insight, like just in the screenshot, that, well, people with physical limitations use yoga, so you might cater for that audience, while people like customizable, or focusing on certain parts of body. And like this is like a long process, so but this is like really useful. And this is something like you get so many ideas from real users without actually having to schedule every single interview with them, which is also good. But I don't think like many people do have a lot of time and do have that bigger access to audience to do 100 interviews. So yeah, I think like this is like the first thing, and this is like really insightful, and this is something that, well, just go for it. Right, so the next thing that happens with already this idea, and so much more after you started the app reviews, have so much more about your audience, and have so much more understanding of their pains, so that you can not only understand the pain, but also go and do the gap search. So what happens here? So gap search generally is like a common thing in product design or any type of design. I mean, not only for mobile app, not only for software development. It's just like something that's been there forever. And the idea is to find something that is missing. So it's like there's a comfort of the user and the features, and there's this gap. And by narrowing the gap, you're basically like covering certain pains the user have. So it's like about inventing something or figuring out, well, this is like we're not there yet, and like how taking some job from the user. Right. So I think we just Nub in the previous lecture just saying that, well, like all things are split into categories, and this is true for product fit as well. And the idea here, what I see from my practice, is that the best solutions, they come not exactly from like the same types of apps. So for example, if you're doing yoga app, it's not like a yoga app, but it's like something in the middle, something in the crossing. So my advice here is to look category wise. And for example, if you do a puzzle game, just look what casual games are into, what trends are there. If you do, I don't know, uh, strategy game, just check what's happening at a multiplayer gaming, because while there are many like in categories, the apps are not that similar. The users have similar issues, and you might get some interesting ideas from there. And by like seeing how certain issues are covered in a different section, while it would kind of help you and might give you a little bit more inspiration, because while users don't think category wise, they just like have random apps from all over. So they really like it's just about more finding something that fits and some nice ideas and bringing them to your industry. Right. And yeah, again, for product, what's important here as well is for analyzing gaps is to understand your product landscape. That's what I'm talking about. That is, that you're competing with other apps of the similar style. It's not only them. So what you want to do is just go for competitors overview. For example, here I put like face yoga and yoga, right? And you see they're like different apps, and you go study them. And then what you want to do is map them, understand where you want to be. And generally, like in working the product landscape, the most complicated thing is to figure out what the axis will be. So after studying like we're talking about the face yoga app, I picked up personalization education, right? And then you start mapping other apps. So you see some of those are very educational, but they don't offer any customization. Others all focus on customization, but not that don't have that much information. So basically, you map them around, and you'll see that this is not only like face yoga app, but there's something in this context, right? And then you figure out where you want to be, and this is like really important. And I think visual, easy to understand way to see where you want to be at the end of the story, how you want to stand out or otherwise fit in this niche, because well, you're not isolated. And I think this is like a question you should ask yourself, like how far I want here and there, and this is like a cornerstone of your strategy. Right. So and finally, like I think this is also classics, but something that you shouldn't you should keep in mind is user interview. Right. So I wouldn't talk about this a lot because, well, it's a common practice. Just try to find people who would be your audience. It's not like anybody would fit, right? Just already with having this information about the audience you got from, all those insights from distribution channels, monetization channels. Try to focus there because, well, people don't have, well, we don't have that much time to have like 50 interviews. It's like if you have like 20, you already done a great job. So make sure like this, you should have this understanding, this is not a quantitative analysis, it's a qualitative analysis for you to get big amount of insights. Or maybe you had some questions from the review study, and you just kind of want to figure out whether other people have similar pains. So it's more for validating your ideas. So it's important to create a scenario, and when you go for a user interview, you already know what you want to check, like how many people do it as a morning routine, for example, or do they like anything, or what insecurities they have. So it's more kind of you validating hypothesis than just talking all over, because well it's hard, and unless you still don't have a product to show or something, so it's really vague. So it's important to make this efficient for you and work for you, right? So again, getting back to our profiling, after this you'll have some, additional thing, like for example, you got that, well, this app is more suitable for 35 plus. Maybe you'll see that, well, in context, some people take it as self-care routine, so it's like a part of their self-care. Or like have many more features. Well, because at this point, like, you already will, people will start telling you features, or you'll see those from reviews. So now you have like a whole different context, and this a whole different word cloud of, you have better understanding of persona, better understanding of context when it's used and why it's used. And you have like certain feature requests you might work with. So now it's time to process all this data. So yeah, again, now I have like covered the whole triangle. And you should remember that it all works together. It's not like something isolated. It's not like you forget about your distribution at this time, at this point. Right. So, and before building a strategy, it's like, I think like this is the most important thing. Like, it took me some time to kind of understand, and now it feels like generally, when you create any type of app, you go for one of three scenarios. It's like just three scenarios in the world. It's like either it's disruption, so you create something completely new. Evolution, you just kind of make it a little bit better, a little bit different. And copying. And you should understand that, well, it's a high risk if you disrupt the market. And basically, if you want to play pretty safe and it just like your business, you actually want to be somewhere here. You want to be in the evolution. If you want to disrupt it, it's okay, but it's like the bigger the changes, the higher the risk. And of course, well, we don't really want of copying any functionality, but while the core thing should be the same. And again, it's vital. So what's important is it's vital to keep the core UX clean. So while evolving and making certain things different, so for example, customization of lessons for training program, whatever. If the core value is a lesson that would teach you how to do a certain exercise, it's not like a place to experiment. It's just like you keep it there, and because like people come for core UX, so they don't really want to study new pattern, and they have certain expectations. And what you can experiment is, I don't know, settings, or maybe initial tests, or maybe notifications, or something else, or just the way the information is presented. But you really want to know what the core feature of your app is, and keep it like similar to others, because otherwise you put yourself under huge risk that people, it would be too hard for them. It would require too much of effort from users to understand what your app is about. Great. So again, getting back to our profiling, so we have these ideas. It's time to map them. So what I usually do is like a pretty simple graph, which on one axis is impact, how much I feel they would impact the market, impact, the price of the app, or call it value of the app. And on the other axis is how big is the execution. So of course I want to take everything from the second square, right? But usually there are not that many there. Then I go like low execution, high impact. And I mean, generally it's not the graph that important. It's important for you to ask yourself these questions, because well, you need to, before picking up features for MVP, just think about how long the execution is, and how much input it is. And with this in mind, MVP should be quick, right? So for example, we have in the fourth square we have AR monitoring, which sounds like a huge nice feature, but it's long to execute without having a high input. You shouldn't make an MVP, because while you're putting yourself under risk that it would take a huge amount of time. So you generally go for quick execution, high or medium impact, right? So yeah, and once you've built your MVP or have idea of have like at least a design, you can start gathering your own data. Well, though analyzing markets, reviews, it's all good, but at the end of the day, you should get results for your own app, and this is important, right? So my recommendation is to do the concept testing as quick as you can, as early as you can, before you don't put in a lot of investment in the app itself, in the development. So landing pages are pretty good way to test any concepts, because, well, you'll see at least how people are interested. App marketing, so this is all like testing user acquisition again, and creatives. and soft launch, of course. So like soft launch is like the final and the classical way of custom testing. And the idea is just that you can do a few tests even before the soft launch. Don't have to wait that long, right? So finally, like if we look at the whole process of product phase research, so you have an idea, and then you do the market research, then you do customer development, then do custom validation, then do solution validation, then you build MVP, and finally here in the product launch, right? So you see that there's circles, so it might come back, and at every step, it means that, well, it's not that a straightforward route, but I think like taking all these steps will let you make a more efficient way and to find a proper product fit, right? And just getting better understanding of where you're going at an early stage, and adapt the product to it. That's it. Time. Yeah, I'll put for questions. If you want to continue chat, just drop me a line, email,